Dear friends, I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom, a Happy New Year for the Gregorian calendar year. And I hope many of you, especially Montreal, are coming back re-energized with a clear head and conscience and ready to jump in and take it to a new level. It's interesting that with this week's Torah portion, which is the final portion of the book of Genesis, Bereshis, Vayechi, talks about the final days of the life of Jacob, the third of our patriarchs, the third and final of our patriarchs, the one who fathered 12 sons that became the 12 tribes. And as we read, when he passes away, things start changing for the Jews. And ultimately, when the 12 sons pass away, that's when all the real hardships of Egypt start taking root, and ultimately the slavery. But a big part what it talks about Jacob's death and everything surrounding his death is that his preoccupation with his burial, that he calls in his son Joseph, and I want to be buried in a specific place in Israel, I don't want to be buried in Egypt, and to make sure you bury me properly, knowing especially how the Egyptians will want to maybe keep him in Egypt and mummify him, and like they did with all of their great people that they respected and thought had powers and was royalty. And I want to just note that this preoccupation with burial is not something we should take lightly. And I was just reading some numbers that was very shocking to me about how high the percentage of people who choose to cremate themselves in the United States. I don't know the numbers in Canada, but the United States, it is over 50% of people choose to cremate themselves. There's a big movement, and a lot of them stand behind the environment and other such types of arguments to say that it's better to be cremated than to have a typical burial. And unfortunately, many Jews are unaware of the Torah stance on this issue. That God forbid for a Jew to be cremated, to burn the body of a Jew is totally against the Torah way. A body who had done mitzvahs, especially many mitzvahs, but even if one mitzvah, a body that put on tefillin, that lit the Shabbat candles, a body that partook of any type of activity between a person and God, or between one person to another, with their hands, with their feet, with their heart, with their soul, with every part of them, is holy, is sacred. We cannot just burn it. It has to be dealt with in the most respectful and dignified way. In Judaism, we don't just bury. The protocols of preparation for burial is done with such dignity and respect, more than many people get when they're alive. We do not only talk about spirituality as sacred. Our physical world and parts of it that engage in mitzvahs and good deeds become sacred as well. And every Jew, we are told, is filled of mitzvahs like the seeds of a pomegranate, fills the pomegranate. So, cremation is a big no. And even if the deceased asked or put in the will to be cremated, according to Jewish law, you do not listen to them, because we cannot go against God and His wish. And the chances are most people, if they really understood the issue from the Torah point of view, they wouldn't choose cremation. Unfortunately, in our times, Hitler chose to cremate over 6 million Jews. The millions who were cremated in the gas chambers. This summer I visited several camps. Heart-rendering. to imagine how many people were cremated, were burnt to ashes. And many of these people were burnt while they were alive. Most of them were alive. A lot of people were cremated after death, but there were people that were burnt alive. And the Rebbe tells us that when you cremate a person who passes away, you're burning the soul, because the soul always remains connected to the body. Our soul has to be on fire, but a fire of Torah, of mitzvahs, of love for Hashem, not cremated. I'm not going to go into all the laws. You should talk to your local shaliach, Chabad rabbi, or Orthodox rabbi. I think it's so important to remember that just like Yaakov was preoccupied with burial, is because, yes, we love to live, but how we bury our dead is a sign of how we respect those who are alive. Make sure that everyone you know around you has a Jewish burial done properly. It's a great blessing for the soul, the body, and all the family. So I want to wish you a Shabbat Shalom. May we all live long, full, complete, beautiful lives. God bless you all. We love you. Candlelighting time in Montreal this Shabbat, 4:08 p.m.